in fear. You got to be taught from year to year. It's got to be drummed in your dear little ear. You got to be carefully taught.
Do you have the courage to love someone?
Hello, welcome back. So, as promised, we're going to be discussing more O.J. Simpson-like symptoms. And we're going to kick it off with tokenism, because he was a token. He was the juice. So, anybody want to start us off? What is tokenism?
I feel like I've talked too much.
So somebody else go. Lauren, you got it.
Go, Lauren.
Tokenism doesn't have to be just that one person, but it can be just putting in a few examples to appear like we're giving a diversity, when really we're putting in people in a system that's not changing for them, and they may adjust to that system or they might not.
So, what floats to the top, would you consider that a token? The people who get praised and get used as a symbol
For what you could be.
Yes, with the access that you have now.
I also feel like you could raise a person up and then say, you are the face for your people. Like, therefore, you're supposed to be the example that they have to, reach. I think that's tokenism as well, if it's in there.
So OJ transcending race is a...
Transcending.
Beyonce is another example of transcending race. The race does not exist. I think because I'm a film major too, so I'm not just out here. Tokenism happens a lot in media. So when we watch, Star Wars, it's under the sort of like cover, the disguise of its inclusion, because we have John Boyega, the black character. But I don't remember seeing a black woman in there. I don't remember seeing a Latinx woman in there. I don't remember seeing any trans individuals.
It's funny you
in
mentioned
there.
A Latinx and a African American woman, or a black woman, excuse me. I don't like the term African American applies to all black people. But Lupetia Nyong'o.
Yeah.
Her voice was in the movie.
Her voice was in the movie.
Yeah,
her body cannot be
her.
and she has to play an ugly old green alien.
And she played it well.
She in there because she's the Academy Award winning black actress, so we can just throw her in here and people will think that's okay.
So would you say Obama and Oprah?
I was just about to do
Yeah.
that. I feel like people use, not only tokenism is an issue in itself, people take tokenism and use it as symbolism. So Obama's president, that means racism is over. No.
Yeah, the post-racial society thing.
I think one of you made it up there, so y'all can make it up there. You're good.
No.
I think it can even be somebody that is the face. So, for instance, not a lot of people know, so I'm probably going to make y'all, conscious of this, is BET is owned by a white company.
Viacom.
Hello.
That
Thank
owns
you.
Paramount.
Hello. And MTV and VH1 and Nickelodeon.
people.
Like, they're all under one umbrella. And many people don't know that, but because they see Deborah Lee as the face, they're like, it is a black-owned company. It's run by black people, so why are we complaining? And so I feel like tokenism can also just be like, you got a position because they need a face. So that was what we're talking about, rising to the top. Like, not saying that Deborah Lee is not qualified, because I could need a job in the future. So let me say that. But putting her in that position so that way she goes in front of the camera.
It makes it seem like what it's not.
Exactly. Even the Oscars had this recently.
Because wasn't it Bob Johnson who owns BET?
Yes, and then he
sold it. So
Even
black entertainment isn't black entertainment.
Exactly. Even with the Oscars that happened, when we had the Oscars so white situation, we had never seen or heard from the president of the Oscar, like the Academy themselves. And then as soon as that hashtag began trending, they were like, we're redoing the voting process and who we can include and who's going to vote for these movies. You saw the face, and it was a black woman. It's like, this is very fishy. It's a black woman all of a sudden now. You've been here the whole time, and you didn't think it was a problem as a black woman. So it's like tokenism can also just be somebody that is just there to be like, here, we're going to throw you out so that way people don't come at us.
Yeah.
So with tokenism, I think we should discuss social constructs because we've thrown out a lot of them. And I know it might be going a little bit backwards, but I think it's important to highlight that. So Lauren, could you elaborate?
Yes. Constructs are concepts of division that we think exist, but they don't. And we only think it exists because we've been conditioned into believing it does, and because we've been conditioned into it for so many centuries, it becomes relevant and a part of our daily lives. Yeah.
I like to explain constructs to people on such a very basic level that they may understand it, which is everything in life is a construct. So everything in life is a construct, because what makes this a table? If you ask somebody that, they're gonna be like, just because it's a table, that's because it's a construct. We have all agreed upon that as a society, as a people, that this is what defines a table. So if I was to be like, this is a table, y'all gonna be like, he missing a few screws. Like that's a chair. That's a chair, my dude. Like, so yeah, I think in order to explain constructs for people who don't understand it, I usually go very
I
basic.
think another thing I wanted to hit on that is that I think that when we talk about constructs, automatically people think race is a social construct. But we have to talk about like gender is a social construct. You know what I mean? Sexuality. You know, the idea of that there only being two genders, like that is something people agreed upon. That's not, you know.
Because in other countries, in other cultures, there are three. Exactly. You can identify as three. But because we have this sort of Americanized view of there's two. People think
so I just wanted to throw out there, like, when we talk about constructs, it's not only a racial thing. It goes beyond.
Way deeper than that.
So I think you both are touching on something of there are things that we have agreed on. What happens when we start to disagree is why we have these conversations now.
But how did you get to a place where you were in a position to disagree? You've broken out of this whatever you've been conditioned to think, cycle. And do you feel like it's because you know the exact definitions of the words that we've agreed upon? Because I think even with that, when people think about somebody who's Latinx, they use their eyes to define and not what constitutes this racial group. What is written as a Latin person, a black person? You know, like once you use those words and really know the meaning behind them, I think you're able to overlap and mix and understand.
Right. So are you asking like how we became conscious?
Yes. How did you get to a place of being able to break out of these constructs and see for what people are and not what you've been told?
Reading.
It was the YouTuber Saran. That's what did it to me. Thank you, Saran. Her videos, it was like, because I remember discovering her channel a long time ago when I was still in that sort of like a mindset, and I like commented under her video and I was like, you're making no sense, about whatever it was that she was talking about. And then I discovered it my sophomore year of college, and this was before I became a sociology minor, and then it was like, it's starting to make sense to me. And then I became a sociology minor, and then it was like, oh, what she talking about is true, like this. And then I started to go deeper into that for myself.
But how were you finding that out within your sociology minor?
My textbooks, I really liked
Message.
my textbooks, I really liked contested knowledge, and the book is named Social Theory, and the biggest class that actually made the impact was social theory. So it like really breaks into the capitalism, Marx, Du Bois, all of this different stuff that we have already touched upon and we plan to touch upon in the future. So that's kind of like how I came up with the definitions.
And then what do you read?
Reading. Wow, I read everything. And like when I mean everything, even things from faulty sources, because it's always good to know what they're even trying to put out there. So exactly, because if they say something that sounds completely off, you're going to want to search it up. And then if you search it up, more sources come out that either debunk it or even can approve it. So I read a lot, but I think that consciousness definitely came to me when I left Puerto Rico. And then I realized that I was considered a them. And yeah, you know, I was young, so I think a lot of it has to do with age as well. But I think that's when I started realizing that, like, there's a lot of things going on that people think is right, but it's not right, or it's not, like, they think is natural and it's not natural, because I just had a lot of walls. not only like with white individuals, but with individuals who consider themselves or identify as Puerto Rican as well.
Was language one of those barriers?
Yes, many times. I think I'm gonna like give a brief little story, but like I was in middle school, last year of middle school, and then I had a teacher. I'll never forget her name, and her name is Mrs. Callett. And we were reading a book. I don't remember the book. And then I genuinely did not know how to pronounce it in English. I really didn't know, and I didn't know the definition, so it wasn't like I could even grasp for the definition to at least try to help me make it connect in the context. Then I asked her, and I said, Miss Callie, can you please help me? I just want to know what this word means. And then she looked at me and she said, are you stupid? Do you need a translator? Do you need to be in special ed?
Wow.
And
those are in the same context.
Exactly. And then she goes, on that little island of yours, what did they teach you? And I just stared at her. I was like, it was just a word. And I remember crying. And then I cried every day for a year, that first year that I moved to the United States, every day. I came home crying from school because I realized that I was a them in everybody's eyes and a lot of people's eyes. And then that's when I turned a lot to reading and looking for information and understanding why these phrases were being thrown at me. Why did she think that bilingualism should be tied to special education? Mm-hmm. Why was I different because I was an islander? Why were people from my community that just happened to, be born on the mainland, treating me as if I was nothing? Mm-hmm. Where were all these things coming from? So that's when I started to, look for things and gain consciousness. And I think that right now, I know that I still have a lot of work to do. I know that there are things out there I still need to read on and gain more conscious on. But I have to say, it's all about reading. I never turn to TV ever, really, rarely. I turn to TV if I want to look for something that just happened, now, instant. Mm-hmm. But if I need historical context and I need other context, I read. I
think what you were also saying is part of the definition is interactions. Because if you don't experience something, having someone that you're friends with or in your family or, an acquaintance or whatever, experience something and having that interaction with whatever system interaction with then you get to see that. And so then you're like, okay, I now understand what this means. Yes. So a lot of people are very homophobic until they have a gay, bi, lesbian, all of that. Yeah. As their child or as their friend, and then it's like, oh wow, what I've been saying, what I've been doing, impacts this person that I care about, and so then they're able to be like, okay, this is homophobia. I know what this looks like. Or when they be like, I have a black friend. Yeah. Well, then that black friend, you having that black friend should show you that when you go to spaces together, certain spaces, you're treated differently than he is treated differently.
Yes. Mm-hmm. But or I think another thing that helps with that is double consciousness. And I think, another form of double consciousness, from my end, it's I had the ability to live in two societies, So, I still have a foot in Puerto Rico and I have a foot here. And then, there are people here who identify as Puerto Rican that think that, you have people like Luis Gutierrez, who's in Congress. You have people like Sotomayor, who's on the Supreme Court. And it's we're represented. And then, you have people like me, islanders like me, that come and say, well, islanders can't vote. We have taxation without representation. We have nobody to represent us, not even to come over and fight for us. We participate in your wars, but we get nothing in return. You put our people to die on the front line, but we get nothing. You're exploited. Then you get that double consciousness, and that's another thing that helps with breaking out of the cycle. Mm-hmm. And it's really interesting because my parents were born in the United States, and they left at different times of their lives to live in Puerto Rico, and then my sister and I were born in Puerto Rico. So their outlook on American society is very different from my outlook of American society. Because to them, since they were born in it and since they were cycled in it, it's normal. Mm-hmm. But for me, it wasn't normal. So that's a lot of clashes that I had with my parents when I would come home crying every day from school. They just didn't understand why. Why was I suffering from culture shock? Why was I going through these things that they never went through? You know, because to them, this society, they grew up in this society. They grew up in the system. So to them, it was normal. It was a construct that they knew. To me, it was not a construct that I knew. It was very different. So, like, that helped me when it came to say, okay, this is wrong. Something's really wrong, and I have to rip it apart. And then, you know, I got to the point where you start thinking, am I alone? Am I the only person who thinks that this is wrong, that knows that this is a construct? And then, you know, you meet people like, you know, like all of us that were sitting on the table, we're like, you're not crazy. There's something wrong. It's real. It's wrong. It's real. You know, like that's where I help interactions and realizing the double consciousness. You know, even I have to say, like, immigration, like, even though people wouldn't consider me an immigrant, you know, I come with similar experiences as immigrants. Just because I have a American citizenship doesn't mean that I don't, you know, I don't go through the immigration process. Right. But I go through a very similar experience of being othered. And, you know, I go through xenophobia. I go through all these things, you know, where it's like, you know, you have to go back to where you came from. And, you know, it's like that is xenophobia. And I don't think that a lot of islanders experience it and other people from other countries. And, you know, when you have generations of a certain identity already here, they lose that connect where they're like, why are you being othered when we identify as the same thing?
Yeah. So we're going to touch a little bit more upon otherness in our next cycle of episodes. Stay tuned. Thank you for watching again.